Just 4 months after leaving office, they tell us that Joe Biden has been diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer that is spreading. They just learned this, they say. Prostate cancer is gauged by the Gleason score, 10 being the most dangerous form. Joe Biden is at a 9. The cancer has spread into the former president's bones, and at a time when there is almost zero trust by the American people toward Biden's inner circle and the people who handle him, the expectation is that we believe that Biden and his family just found out about this very aggressive cancer on Friday. It's possible, but there's also a very good chance that they've known about this for years and have covered it up, much like they did the rest of the president's deterioration. Dr. Zeke Emanuel is the brother of Rahm Emanuel, who's a Chicago Democrat who has eyes on the White House in 2028. Here was Zeke this morning on MSNBC.
Would it be fair to say it's likely to have had this for at least several years?
Oh, more than several years. You don't get prostate cancer.
So again, I just want to stop you. So this is not speculation. If you have prostate cancer that is spread to the bone, then he's most certainly, you were saying, had it when he was president of the United States.
Oh, yeah. He did not develop it in the last 100, 200 days. He had it while he was president. He probably had it at the start of his presidency in 2021.
Probably had it at the start of his presidency in 2021. The president of the United States not only has first-rate care, obviously provided to him at Walter Reed Medical Center, the White House actually has a doctor's office inside of it. Imagine if you had a doctor's office inside of your house. Nobody on the planet gets better health care than an American president. If somehow this truly is the first that Joe Biden is hearing about his aggressive spreading prostate cancer, then heads should be rolling amongst the people that take care of our presidents. But much more likely, this was yet another cover-up. Here was Trump 2 hours ago from the White House.
The other thing is you have to say, why did it take so long? I mean, this takes a long time. It can take years to get to this level of danger. So it's a very, very sad situation, and I feel very badly about it. And I think people should try and find out what happened, because I'll tell you, I don't know if it had anything to do with the hospital. Walter Reed is really good. They're some of the best doctors I've ever seen.
They are. In fact, Donald Trump was nearly killed by COVID, went to Walter Reed. He was very, very sick. We remember that happening. What's really crazy to imagine, there is a good chance that people close to Joe Biden, including his wife, perhaps knew that he was possibly dying of cancer when they decided to run him for re-election last year. That's crazy. Here was J.D. Vance earlier today.
We wish the best for the former president's health. And, it sounds pretty serious, but hopefully he makes the right recovery. We really do need to be honest about whether the former president was capable of doing the job. You can separate the desire for him to have the right health outcome with the recognition that whether it was doctors or whether there were staffers around the former president, I don't think he was able to do a good job for the American people. And that's not politics. That's not because I disagreed with him on policy. That's because I don't think that he was in good enough health. Why didn't the American people have more accurate information about what he was actually dealing with? This is serious stuff. And this is the guy who carries around the nuclear football for the world's largest nuclear arsenal.
Makes an interesting point. I mean, think about it. We never really had a Joe Biden presidency. People that voted for Joe Biden voted for a moderate Democrat they had been watching for 40 years in the Senate. They didn't get anything close to that. And this is yet another way that explains that. Friday, the same day that Biden's people allege our ex-president discovered that he had metastatic prostate cancer, the RobertHer classified document tapes were released by the Trump White House as well. Happened right around the start of this show. Hours of a sit-down interview with President Joe Biden in 2023 that culminated with RobertHer admitting that Biden clearly mishandled classified documents, which were found at several locations, but also stating clearly that Joe Biden was not fit to stand trial, to even be accused of it. He wasn't even fit to be culpable of it. He was too old and too mentally diminished. When RobertHer said that, Joe Biden was the president of the United States a little more than halfway through his first term. but he was too diminished to be held accountable in a court of law for what he had done with classified documents, including likely stealing some a long time ago when he was in the Senate. Here's some of the highlights from those tapes released Friday night.
And so what was happening, though, 1 month ago died, May 30th, 2018. Was it 2015 he died?
2015.
I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months are, but I think that was
Yeah. So, 2017 here.
that's when you left office, January of 2017.
Okay. But that's when Trump gets sworn in.
Right.
January.
Right. Correct.
Okay.
Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
Well, I don't know.
It's the President of the United States, 2.5 years into his presidency. He had no idea the year that his favorite son had died, even though it was only 6 or 7 years prior. He had no idea what year he and Barack Obama left the White House. He's running the country. And here was his attorney, before we had ever heard these tapes, here's his attorney talking about them on CBS.
Does the president have any memory problems?
He does not. I was in the interview room. And let me tell you one other vignette from the interview room. There were a couple of occasions when the special counsel asked questions that the president picked apart as a matter of logic. He showed that the questions didn't have a logical underpinning.
Shocker, right? A lawyer lying, you never see that. But that's what they were capable of doing with this story. The Biden loyal media went after RobertHer. How Herr misled the country on Biden's memory from The Atlantic. And the president doesn't seem as absent-minded as RobertHer has made him out to be from the Washington Post. What else would you expect? Democrats did the same, skewering the special counsel, who did so much, actually, to exonerate the president from trouble after Joe Biden had clearly stolen classified documents from a SCIF during his Senate years. Biden was far worse with classified documents than Trump. And remember, they raided Mar-a-Lago. And then Biden hoarded them all over his homes and offices. Take a listen to how the media covered it.
The comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate.
This is one of the most nonsensical, absurd, and outrageous documents I have seen since then FBI Director James Comey's hit job on Hillary Clinton.
This guy says such random about
Joe, stop. Stop.
He's a kindly old man.
Stop.
I think he does.
Yeah.
I think he hopes he gets a judgeship. If Donald Trump gets elected again, he's trying out because he humiliated himself with that display.
Talk about humiliating yourself. But now we've all heard the tapes, right? And we see the reality that we had a president so mentally diminished that he could really only handle a controlled environment. Note cards with people's names on it, the names of people he's allowed to call on, scripted questions. He would have the question that was coming written on the card that he had. The President of the United States dealing with what was supposed to be a fair and open media. First Amendment? Yeah, right. That's the legacy of the Biden presidency. Elder abuse by a power-hungry Democratic deep state. It is no surprise the administration was so desperate to keep these tapes private, and perhaps his cancer as well. And then they ran Joe Biden for re-election. It is difficult to overstate how insane that is, that they tried to keep him there for 4 more years. He should be in the infancy of his second term right now. Think of the people who were running that White House and how incredible it was for them to have never run for elected office once in their life, to have a decaying puppet that they could manipulate. Imagine the unelected power that they were able to feel because they were there to prop up Joe Biden, pushing him into the White House, pushing their own radical agenda on a clueless, elderly Trojan horse. You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt Tonight on Newsmax.